Welcome to The Swab with Georgie Carroll. We all know nurses have the best stories, so why don't you come have a listen? It is now time to talk to today's guest. Normally I give you a little snippet of what the guest is going to be about, but I just feel like I just ruin the whole thing if I tell you now. All I can say is it starts off fairly lo-fi. It starts off fairly low-key. What we have is our guest today, Kelly Giddings.
Hey, everyone.
Hey. And
hey, Georgie.
This is the first time you've done a podcast, isn't it?
First time ever, yep.
And unusually, we've got someone who's fairly new to nursing. Normally, we have the old orcas with all the big stories.
Brand new nurse.
Brand new nurse. Can I ask you what kind of age you are?
I'm over 40, but under 45.
Over 40, but under 45. And you are a dolphin. You are a dolphin.
I am a dolphin.
Lots of people in my audience are kind of mature students. So what were you before this?
A childcare worker, a manager of childcare as well, out of school hours care, so kids for 20 years.
And what made you not want to do that?
20 years is enough of, like, substitute parenting.
Yes.
Yeah. I figure a parent does 20 years, so...
Your immune system would be pretty robust.
Oh, just got a bit easy. Got
Every
a bit
time
boring.
I hang around little children, I become quite disease-riddled.
Okay.
Anything, 20 years of it, you'll be RSV resistant.
Don't get anything. No, never sick. Touch wood. Never sick.
So we know she's not got a sickness, people. Today's story comes to us really, it's like a first aid story at the beginning of it, I would imagine. I've got a first aid story at the minute. I've got my 15-year-old, my Robbie.
Yep.
He got concussion yesterday.
Oh,
I know. Okay, if I tell you, so people always wonder what I did to him, but it isn't me. Like, it was a knee to one side of his head and an elbow to the other side of his head, which sounds like me, but it was midair.
Midair. Oh.
So it's not me.
Football.
That's what happened. It's so weird. Are you any good at first aid? You will be after years of childcare.
Yeah, childcare. You have to do it every year and every 3 years.
I have no idea when it comes to first aid. I was an intensive care nurse. I was an emergency nurse for a little while, but not. Yep. I never upskilled to officially be one. But when it came to this, well, clearly the kid's ridiculous because he carried on the quarter in a wobbly fashion.
Yeah.
And I was chatting. I don't really watch the sport.
Yeah. Well, I've hit my head. I've had concussion quite a bit, but I don't feel
Why do you
my
get
head
concussion?
Because I bump into stuff and I hit stuff because I don't see it. And I don't feel it either. But so I kind of get concussion symptoms but don't have any pain. So I kind of just plod along like your son. Well,
this is what he did. And then it was another parent that alerted me to the fact that I should maybe take him to hospital because I was like, he'll get back on the pitch. He'll just... And she was like, no, he says he feels sick. He says he's dizzy. He's white. And I'm like, all right then. And even then, I took him home and Googled things for like an hour before I took him to hospital and then was immediately in resus.
Oh, what?
Well, yeah, because have you worked in emergency yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you've had your place, but they don't often let you in resus when you're a student or a new person.
No, but Country Health, you do everything in ED. All
right, so you know that you can be in resus when there's could be something wrong with you, but there isn't yet.
Yeah.
Like it's
the head.
Yes. Well, here's a tip for anyone listening. I took him to our most low key hospital.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he'll be their biggest problem.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take a concussion unless I was really worried to a women and children's because it's like, on the scheme of things.
Yeah.
There's lots of kids in there having lots of other things. Whereas if you take them to the old people hospital, they're like, oh, it's a child.
Yeah. It's a child. Quick.
the children of the future.
They got more life left.
They've got, all of that. So, So I've not to leave him for 48 hours. But I'm here with you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I'm sure your son appreciates it.
Given what I know about you and the story that we're going to talk about, it does not surprise me that you bump into things a lot. So,
yes.
But people don't often bump into them with their head.
Yeah, anything. And especially in theatres now. Booms and stuff and televisions and, other people.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Doors are the most. Doors and walls.
Doors and walls.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The reason I say that our story I consider it ours now.
Is that
It's something I enjoy so much, and I've spoken to everybody about it since I found out this thing about you. So, and when people find out what it is, they'll think I'm a sicko, but I just love it.
It was your story before you even met me. Like, you claimed it in your show.
I claimed it in my show. So I was doing my book tour around Australia, and I came to do my hometown of Adelaide. And as always, the audience is full of nurses. Now, for the book tour, it isn't just me doing stand-up. It is me doing stand-up, and then there's a Q&A at the end. And the person who did my Q&A was Laurie Bell. Have you seen Laurie Bell before?
No, I haven't.
She's great. So she does a character called Granny Flaps.
Okay. I've heard of Granny Flaps.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
So... But it just so happens Laurie Bell is a first aider, and she was in the Q&A trying to come across to the audience like she's some medical god, because she reckons that nurses are shite at first aid.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. You'll be like a double-edged ninja at things because you are a first aider from childcare.
Yeah. One reason I won't do peds either.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know what's going on. You know, like even when kids are hobbling off a field, I don't know if they can, I can stem a blood flow. Yeah. I'm pretty good at stemming a blood flow. Awful. And if they come off...
Just put some ice on it. They'll be right.
Yeah, intensive care. If they come off with hepatic encephalopathy, I'll know what to do with them. But I do not know what to do with, just these minor injuries and slings and things. So Laurie Bell is coming across like the medical god in front of this audience that is about 70% healthcare workers. And I said, "Oh, shut up, Laurie." I said, the only thing a first aider can do is secure a javelin in an eye socket until the person gets to hospital. And that never happens.
Never happens.
And then the voice, this very voice you hear today, pipes up from the audience.
And, I'm that girl. I'm the girl that got hit in the head with a javelin and lost my eye.
This is... the whole audience loved it.
I was gobsmacked and I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I had to say something.
Because it never happens.
Because it does happen.
I know it does. Because me and Laurie have since spent so many hours Googling athletics accidents.
Yep.
People getting hit by shot puts. People getting hit by javelin. Though there's an excellent one where a kid, he doesn't lose his eye. He just cries a lot.
Yeah.
But a kid gets hit with a javelin in the leg.
Yep.
And he's fine. So, but because I was just reacting instinctively when you said it, and I just couldn't stop laughing.
Well, I couldn't believe that, you were telling my story in the show that I was visiting. So
then, after the show, me and Laurie are downstairs and going, because we can't see you when you're in the audience.
No, well, I was up on top on the balcony in the first row, and you were looking out down
quicker.
below. Yeah,
right. Should have bought quicker. So me and Laurie are backstage afterwards, and I went, "Do you reckon that happened?" And we're like, "Nah."
She was just a heckler.
She was just like she just on the Savvy Bee, and she's just like, "Yeah, I had a javelin through my head." Go out to do my book signing afterwards, and you say hello, and you have not only a scar to show where it went in, but a glass eye as well.
Yes, that does some fun things.
Okay.
Well, used to when I was immature.
Yeah. Well, immature means this happened to you when you were 11, I think.
Yes, 11.
Why was a javelin in your day?
I was visiting. I bludged a day of school and was visiting my future school, and I was going home. So, yeah. And then I was just like...
So this is your settling in day at high school?
This was my visit the high school and see whether I'll like it or not day.
Oh my God.
I still went.
You still went?
Still went.
That's so good. Right, and so you're just wandering around, having a really nervous day anyway because you're settling into big school.
Yeah.
And
saw the measurer was my friend who I was there with. And
they chose javelin as an activity to do on this.
It's a sports day event, javelin, shot put, discus, just in the middle of the oval as the runners are running around the edges.
Yeah.
And I was telling you I was going home. We're going home now. Your mum and I are leaving. And next thing I know, I got laid under a tree, which at first I was really excited about because they laid me under the tree.
Yeah.
But next thing I know, I was going to hospital. So,
just because in my little cartoon head.
Yeah.
In my little cartoon head, you're under a tree with a javelin still sticking out of you with a first aider with one of them stupid donut bandages holding it in place. Did it go in and go out again?
Well, no one's told me the truth. Maybe after this podcast, someone at the school can tell me whether they ripped it out or what they did with it. But all I know is it went in one in the middle and came out the side.
Went through your head?
Yeah, but my face wasn't ripped off, so I don't know how my face survived getting hit in the head with a javelin, because they're pretty big.
Yeah, and your brain would be in the middle there.
It was a millimetre away from my brain. So
always a millimetre, isn't it?
If
it was a hair the other way, they would have bled to death. All of that. Yours was like a millimetre.
A millimetre, I was told.
Okay, so the javelin went through you. But you don't know if you had the javelin in you.
Just hanging out, and they chopped it, sawed it down, put the donut on.
Do you remember, did you black out?
Yeah, so it took about 10 years to remember what it felt like when it happened, because I'd always said, don't remember,
why would you
don't
want to?
remember. And then all of a sudden I'm telling the story, blah, 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 as you do. And I'm like, that's right, it felt like I got hit in the head with a shot put, like someone just went bang.
You'd prefer a shot put?
Yeah, you'd probably prefer a shot put.
Matt, yeah.
Yes.
The
story wouldn't be as exciting, though.
And so also when... So then you go to hospital.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes, I did go to hospital. My mum got the phone call saying, like, your daughter's had an accident. Like, if you could just come down to the school. So my mum thought I got my period. And she gets to the school, no, she's gone off in an ambulance. So, yeah, I went off in an ambulance and spent a couple of weeks in hospital. And, like, my story...
she's clearly not a nurse, your mum, or else she'd be like, just get her back to school.
Just get her back to school.
Just let her get on with it.
And in my head, I'm like... I now know as a nurse that we get given a lot of drugs when you have an injury.
Yeah.
And it's like life-threatening and stuff. I know now that I was in intensive care and all these other things, but for like the next 10, 15 years, people are like, what happened when you found out? And I'm like, I just was happy that I could still perv on boys.
Yeah.
And that was my story. I told that to like one of the magazines that you write in and get cash for when I was a teenager.
You sold your story.
I sold my story for like $100. Yeah, it was one of those ones.
Oh God, I love those magazines.
And I was just like, and my mum read the article and she goes, you never said that, Kelly. You did not say you can still perv on boys. And I'd been telling everyone I met that story for like 10, 15 years. So
yeah,
got a little muddled with the hospital drugs, but then just carried on the journey for...
Sounds like you weren't greatly affected by this whole thing.
No, well, I could still see. And it made me just that little bit more special, made me stand out from the crowd a bit more.
How good is being special?
It felt good.
At high school.
Like, I was just kind of plodding
even before
along.
you got there.
Yep. I got letters from everyone in my future class. They all wrote me letters that I've still got.
Yeah.
And they're all like, we want to be your best friend. So it was pretty cool as like an 11-year-old to like be famous.
Yeah, you didn't like get any PTSD at sports day for the years after?
No, well, I did javelin for quite a few years after that.
You played?
I played. I threw javelin. And then as the time came for, the compensation and claim thing, they're like, no, you need to not be so good, not be so happy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're doing it. You got to have it affect you a bit more.
Really?
Yeah.
Who do you sue for the javelin thing?
Not the school. Well, we did the school, but we were hush-hush.
Because nobody did it on purpose.
No, and the poor girl that did it was, that was a bit sad. I was better than her.
Because I've since read, so I was online. Because, like, me and Laurie were like, this can't, like, we've never seen a javelin go through somebody. We need to know if this happened.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's no YouTube of it because it was when you were 11 and you're now 40. There's no anything. But there's a woman who, this is slightly less funny.
As you laugh.
Sometimes people do die in ridiculous ways.
They do.
There was, and this woman, on her sports day.
Yep.
Killed her friend with a javelin.
Yes.
And you read that story and thought...
I thought she stole my story. I thought, because I've told everybody over the years and I've lived around Australia, and I thought she just looked like one of those ladies that I've chatted with at a pub and just like heard. And I thought, well, if she makes the person dead, they can't repute, like they can't say, it didn't happen. And... I'm kind of like, when it happened to me, there was no precedent for it. No one had been hit with a javelin in the head. But how she started her story about, I thought she'd lost an eye.
Yeah.
But no, it turns out it killed her. I'm like, no, she's definitely extended my story just so she can get money. And it's very sad. This lady's had lots of problems.
Yeah, she's definitely. And if you are listening, that lady.
I'm very sorry.
You're very sorry. And you feel that... feel like you've not forgiven yourself yet, but
Yeah,
you
forgive yourself. I forgive her. Like, accidents happen.
Do you ever bump into this lady, the javelin thrower?
Lot after the first few years. Our parents tried to make us friends, but it was hard for the girl.
Yeah, you do struggle.
Catch up, show her you're doing really well, but it's still, the girl struggled for quite a while.
It is a great point of difference to be the one that had it thrown at you.
Yeah, and the one
rather than the one that threw it.
And you only get points, like it's what she threw it so she could get a point for the school's plan, like sports day team.
For a ribbon. You get a ribbon anyway.
Yeah, well, you do these
just
days.
for participating.
Back then, we didn't get ribbons.
Oh, well, it was worth it back then.
It was worth it.
Anything for the shot.
Yes.
Anything for the shot.
Yep.
There was a boy in my high school called Dozzy, and he became a diabetic during high school.
Yep.
A type 1, so an injector. And it really was his favourite thing about himself.
He was special.
All his Christmas cards were signed from Dozzy the diabetic. He would put his hand up in every class because he thought he was having a hypo. Like every single class, he was like,
a hypo?
I need a Kit Kat. I've got to go. I need to go, and I need a friend to come with me. Every single class. And we all kind of fell in love with him a little bit for his thing.
Well, I used it in high school for just if I didn't like the subject, I'd have a headache. So I'd have to go to the dispensary and have a lie down.
A bit of a lie. Oh, my javelin sore.
My head sore.
Nice. I think that's what my son's doing this morning. I think he could have gone back to school.
No, concussion. I got to stay home. That's what your son's doing, yeah.
And so you used your I presume the glass eye, which looks amazing now. Were they always good glass eyes?
No, the old guy was a little old.
Tell me.
Like, he had big ears and was really scary and was a bit old. And
the eye maker, which sounds like something from a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, and he had
the children's eye maker
when they were still glass. So originally they were made from glass, and he had this big shelf. And your chair to get your eye made was a dentist chair, like one of those old leather red dentist
because
chairs.
You lived with a gap of an eye for
There's
a while?
There's a gap in there, so you live with a gap
I've
for a
taken
while.
eyes out, so they're like a plate. The ones that I've seen, people imagine they're like a full sphere, don't they?
Yeah. Well, we're on radio, but do you want to see it?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I've seen a few, so yeah.
But that's why my email was Miss Terminator for ages, because I've got a Titanic stem.
Yeah.
And I was like, just put a laser beam in it, and I can be Terminator from the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So and the ball itself isn't an eyeball.
I'm really hygienic, obviously. I just wipe it on my jeans.
She's such a great nurse. She literally just wiped it on her jeans. So yeah, they're not spherical like people can imagine.
And they get changed all the time. And my eye maker's amazing. And he
But the original old guy.
No, the new guy.
The
old guy just tried to make money and made me wear a night eye and a day eye. So I was taking
What's
it
a
out.
night eye?
Well, I say in the old days, back to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the lighting was different. So at night time, you got a bigger pupil with less lighting. So I had a little pupil and a big pupil, whereas my maker now does a shadow and I just wear one eye. So
are they busy, these eye makers?
He is so busy.
There's a lot of people losing eyes to javelins.
Really busy. Not many in the profession in Australia. His children are taking on some of what he does as well. So when he retires, I know I've still got a good maker. But he goes overseas and makes them in third world countries, and people come from all over Australia. And so it started with a handful of people, and it's just...
So he's not medical. The eye maker is more of an artist.
He's an artist.
He's an artist, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because they're incredible. And I believe from ones that I've seen in the past that they work with magnets so your eyes can track and...
Yeah, but because the javelin took out everything...
All right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the titanium stems drilled into what I thought was coral, but he told me it's plastic. It gives a little bit of movement because most people who lose eyes, there's a handful of funny accidents like fishing hooks and butter knives and things like that, which aren't so funny, but most...
the fish hook.
Most one-eyed people, it's cancer. So they've still got everything working behind, they just lose their...
I think that's definitely the ones that I've dealt with before. So you kind of made your eye and your injury your bitch through high school and had some fun with it.
Oh, it took a while because I remember showing someone in primary school, because I went back to school a few weeks after the accident. Like I was like, I'm right, back to primary school. And I remember showing someone and I think they passed out because they just saw the hole.
Yeah.
And so then people my mum was like, you can't, they'll say they want to see. but it's a really big thing for people to see.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stopped showing people for a little while because I thought it wasn't quite right. And then when I was about 16, school camp, it just started. I just opened the flood bank. Someone was curious. I'm like, we're old enough now. So on keep putting it in ice cream at Pizza Hut so I could get a free ice cream, even though it's an ice cream bar that's free. And the waiter's name was Skippy, and we were all girls' school, so like we're all there after basketball or something, and I'm like, hey, Skippy, there's an eye in my ice cream, and his face, and so
like there'd just be an eye.
Yeah, there was just an eye just sitting there in the ice cream.
That's pretty cool.
And because I had the spare eye, I could put that one in, or I could put it in my mouth.
Oh yeah, you could have your night eye in the ice cream.
Yep.
What's that?
Upside down cyclops. So I'd put it in my mouth and go, ooh, ooh. So that was always a fun one as well.
Oh, man.
Played quite a few tricks with I got into nightclubs for free. Because I'd be like, oh, shit, like, my eye, I'm sorry. It's like, really, so I really need to get into the bathroom now. It's popped out. Like, and so, yeah, I got that. I got in a few times in front of other people for the eye joke, so...
Are you a country girl as well?
Well, country by family, yep.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But sort of like, this is so cool though. And so has it affected anything else, like in your nursing? So we've had a deaf student on. So one of my podcasters, he's deaf, and I can't believe he was going. Of course you can nurse when you're deaf, and I'm like, I don't know if you can. It's stethoscopes, it's faces behind masks. I don't know. How are you doing this?
Yeah.
But this wouldn't even be classed as a disability, would it? One eye?
It is like if I want to get disabled parking, I can. I don't, because
it's no harder to park with one eye.
Yeah, it is. There's depth perception. I have no depth perception.
All right,
so hence the bumping, hence the knocking, hence not being a scrub scout nurse because scrub scout nursing, hello surgeon, oh, stabbed you, sorry. Like, it can't happen. So unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I wasn't allowed to be a pilot either, so I was really disappointed.
No, I'm glad about that. I'm glad about that. You bump into walls when you're walking. I don't need you flying a plane.
When I was in hospital, though, like to make me feel better, an old guy came in to tell me you can still do everything with one eye. And he was telling me a story. He lost his eye at a certain age, but he'd been flying since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
So he kept his licence for the next 15 years because they'd say cover your left eye and he'd cover his left eye, and then they'd say cover your right eye and he'd just change hands. And so he continued flying. So I'm like, I can do anything. I just have to put my mind to it.
You just have to lie.
Yeah.
To the authorities.
Doing like cannulation and venipuncture took a little bit of work. Like I look like a bit of a wally because I actually
no depth perception.
No depth perception. So hence bumping into booms. And if I walk into a theatre that's not mine, so I do lunch covers, I rearrange the whole theatre so I don't trip over stuff. Like I've already tripped over. If I trip over it once, it gets moved.
So you're in theatres but not as a...
I'm an anaesthetics.
Oh, you're an anaesthetic. All right. So it's just, a syringe going in a hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you can write different stories to the magazines about how they were awake during the operation.
I can. They're pretty exciting, some of them.
Weird. I was talking to an old girl that I speak to at the footy. It's a grandma that's looking after her grandson.
Yeah.
And she's having a colonoscopy this week, and she wants to stay awake for it.
I don't know why
do you
people choose to stay awake.
I was like, she just wants Penthrax. So, just that green whistle that you get in the ambulances, people, if you're not medical. She just wants that. And I'm like, I understand slightly if you want to see your leg get chopped off. Or,
but it's more work
definitely
for
your baby
when
being
they're
born.
Awake. I've got to talk to them, like, for the whole surgery, and it's nice when they're asleep.
Why a colonoscopy? You're just getting a little camera close-up of your asshole to begin with.
Yep.
And then it looks fairly the same.
Yep.
All the way. Why would you need to see it?
No, you don't really need to. It is interesting. Like, I love watching what goes on. I had a dermal cyst that I got to watch.
I can tell by the fact that you love how much you got. You'd rather not have been hit by a javelin.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
Yes. So I've opted out of optical surgery, like anything stabbing into an eye, like proper eye. But I did 2 orbital fracture, like, fixes on, like, last week. Like, so I got to watch them, and I was kind of like, I'm okay with that because it's not the eyeball, but... anything into the eyeball just gets me a bit funky. Yeah. So when I get stuff cauterized off the inside of the stem, like the last time the eye guy, like I get 6 or 7 injections, like local anaesthetics. After it's done, I'm like, I bought my patch, but do you think I need to wear it? He goes, no, you look fine. And I got up from the chair and looked in the mirror, and my eye, like my whole right side was drooping. It was all like disfigured and I'm like, that's like telling your wife her butt looks good in her jeans. Like, it does not look good. Like, so yeah, that kind of, but people have that done and they can see it happening when they get like their eyelids tightened and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They see it because you can't go to sleep. And I'm just happy.
And that's part of getting the eye made.
No, that's getting like lids tightened and things like that, because the bad eye maker made me stretch my eyelid and things. So
the bad eye maker, it is so
he's dead now,
it's
so
so
okay.
Stephen King. Like, I can't get over how that's not an evil character in something.
Needs to
the
be
the bad eye maker.
Yeah. Well, I thought I could be also a transporter of like secret spy stuff as well.
Because you could hide it behind your eyeball.
Because I could hide it in there, like make the eye around it, or hide it behind and be like some secret spy. But no one's offered me.
But instead, you became a nurse.
I became a nurse. So
You became a nurse.
I became a nurse. And 3 years into nursing, I didn't even know if I could get my licence, because it talks about colourblind and things like that. So they were
Does
like,
it?
oh, we don't know if you
can't be a
can.
colourblind nurse.
Well, I think you can be a colourblind nurse. I know a colourblind anaesthetist, but it makes it really tricky. Like left, white on right, and smoke over fire. Like even your ECG dots are coloured. Like,
Yeah, smoke
and
over
they get
fire.
so tangled. How do you know like what one you're putting where?
Yeah,
You've
they've
gotta
got
look at
little.
it.
Yeah, they've got little letters and
they
numbers on,
do,
haven't they?
But it makes it difficult, I think, to be a colourblind nurse. But they let me through.
Well, my 2 children have 4 eyes between them. They've had every injury apart from the javelin through the face.
Yep.
But they are both colourblind, and I found out when I was bollocking them.
Yeah. Oh.
So they had a fight, like
Yeah.
a water balloon fight outside. You know, millions of colours of water balloons all over the grass. I've got AstroTurf, and then I said, "Go and pick them all up."
Yeah.
And they went and picked them all up, but there were still shitloads there, and I was like, "Finish!
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing this again. If you don't."
And you're seeing blue and yellow
do it
and
like
orange
do it like a
balloons.
murder scene. Come on. Just start at one end and pick them up as you go along. And I noticed that they were all the red ones, and I'm like, that one there, and
They just
they were
couldn't
like,
see it.
no, and
Because red goes green, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. So then when I picked up the red one in my hand, they could see it,
Yeah.
but on the grass they.
Ah.
But yeah, they can still be anything they want to be. Then they can still be a nurse,
They can still be a nurse. Yeah.
even if they're colourblind.
Yep.
This has been magic talking to you.
It has.
Where do you want to take your nursing career? Where?
I've been up the top on my last career, and I like to just plod along. I think the higher you get up, the more politics there is. I just like the hands-on stuff.
Absolutely.
I like to stay out of all the hoo-ha and just be a good nurse. And I'm loving anaesthetics, so yeah, I think that's it. Work hard, holiday hard. Once the world opens.
Once the world
So that was my plan. I'm like, well, if I become a nurse, it's also really, really good, because then, like, my nurses were amazing when I was in hospital when I was little. So always wanted to be a nurse.
Oh.
Got to 18, like, did 6 months of nursing in uni and found the uni bar with $5 jugs of beer. So
Yeah.
my nursing career didn't continue at 18, and it took me another 20 years to come back to it.
We're so glad it did.
Yeah, so now I'm just happy just being a nurse, and I'm the annoying one that smiles every day at
I can
everybody.
tell that about you.
And, you know, people are like, hi, like with my enthusiasm, but hey, you
That
share
is not
smiles.
annoying. That is so joyful. There's
I
enough
can
miserable
tell you,
ones.
Some people it annoys.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
get you back on in 10 years and see you where you're up to.
Yeah, what am I going to be then? I'm going to be a penguin then.
You're
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
a penguin then with all your injuries, all your other injuries.
Yeah, arthritis and old lady stuff.
Well, just banging into walls and shit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to me today, and good luck with everything.
Thank you, Georgie.
There's so much danger in the hospital, and I just stay safe, sister.
Stay safe. I
Stay
will.
safe,
Thank you, sister.
Thank you. That was Kelly Giddings and me, Georgie Carroll, on The Swab. You've been listening to The Swab with Georgie Carroll. That's me podcast, but I also have live comedy shows too, and I've written a book called Off the Charts. If you want to know more about those things, please hit me up on my socials. I've got a Facebook called Georgie Carroll, and I've got an Insta called Nurse Georgie Carroll. I've got a website called georgiecarroll.com. Also, if you've got anybody that you think would be a great guest on The Swab, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening, and that's all for today from The Swab.